Hey, welcome to Cruise Control. It's Fred Staab and Les Jackson. We got a great hour of automotive information for you. Les, the $350,000 Cadillac Celestiq is coming out, and it is sold out for 18 months, which is...
Well, I bought two of them.
You bought two of them, one in blue and one in red. I know
One in
that.
blue and one in red
Yeah.
because, you can't just have one color.
No. Ford is celebrating. They have sold a whole bunch of Mustang Mach-E's. We'll tell you what's going on with that. And if you like the regular Mustang, well, we have some horsepower news on that, which is pretty interesting. I think you're going to find that good information. And
Yep.
The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Well, what do they have to do? Because big, heavy vehicles like this Hummer EV are coming in. They have to change how they test vehicles, or at least make sure they can handle the weight. We'll tell you how they're doing that. And I'm also going to have a review of the electric Kona, the Kona great
Wow.
little CUV from the folks over at Hyundai. I enjoyed this one, and I think it's a great way to tip your toe into the world of EVs, although you might have to have kind of a heavy pocket to do it, and you'll have a much lighter pocket after,
Well,
you review it, after you
they're not
drive
bashful.
buy it.
Not bashful about the prices.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll compare that. It compares interesting very well to the Bolt that I am driving now. I'm driving the Bolt EUV.
Oh.
And range-wise and power-wise, it compares very nicely, although I think the Bolt might have the advantage when it comes to price. So we'll talk about that and more when we go live on Cruise Control in just about a minute or so. So stay tuned.
Control.
Everything you need to know about new and used cars.
Control.
Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air.
Control.
Fasten your seatbelts and let us take the wheel. Now, your ride is about to begin
Cruise Control.
because you're on Cruise Control. Cruise Control. Cruise Control.
Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine, and you know us. You see us or hear us every week. I'm Les Jackson. That other guy,
Well,
that
I
very
jumped the gun a little
that very dapper other guy is Fred Staab,
bit. Well, thank you.
and he has, as usual, a big stack of files that our crack reporting is going to pass on to you.
Well, we are, because we like to pass on
We like that.
news about vehicles you want to buy, news about vehicles that you maybe don't want to buy but you're interested in. Maybe that's the Cadillac Celestiq, a $350,000 hand-built, basically, Cadillac. Very high-end. You would think, well, they're not going to sell many of these. They'll be rare. Nope. They're sold out for 18 months.
18 months.
Yeah, so they are, dare I say it, Les, I know you're going to love this, bespoke cars that you can design yourself.
Yeah, I don't quite understand who's buying all these. I'd love to find out.
Yeah. Yep, it's true. But you have a story on the microchip, don't you? That
Yes.
the shortage we've been talking about for a long time.
The shortage could be coming to an end
That's the
thanks
good news.
to the looming recession, which I still say if we have a recession, it's going to be a very, very light one.
Well, I think everyone would hope for that. But
Yeah.
it is interesting how you get, hey, we'll fix the shortage, but
That's right. It's not going to be a problem because nobody's going to be buying anything.
That's right. That's right. So we'll talk about that. And, we've been talking about this, the demise of the manual transmission, especially when it comes to electric vehicles. Lexus says, hey, not so fast. We're going to put manual transmissions in electric vehicles.
Well, I would like to test one of these just to see what it feels like.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will. Anyway, we're going to talk tech, and we're going to talk about morphing car bodies.
Is that ones that kind of like when you drive down the road, they kind of move like a tin can, or
right? Your Yugo converts to a Corvette.
Well, it's interesting because you and I have said most of these cars look the same for the aerodynamic number, so
Very
maybe
much.
the car will look different when it's parked, and then when you drive it, it will change shape. Who knows? But we'll talk about that. We got a whole lot more, including crash testing big Hummer SUVs, and I'll have an at-the-wheel review of the Kona Electric. So stay tuned. The Hyundai Kona Electric coming up on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab, Les Jackson. We'll be right back.
Cruise Control.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Cruise Control. Fred and I just can't wait to tell you about where you can order your new Cadillac.
Yeah.
Well, you can't order it. The Celestique. Beautiful name. Actually, it's a cool car.
It's 300,000.
Not thrilled about the rear end, but
No.
it's slick.
I don't like the rear end because it looks like the taillight. They took the taillight and reversed it and put it on the bottom. But in an interview with Autoline Network, Cadillac chief engineer Tony Roma said, we already have quite a few hand raisers, many more than we're going to be able to build in the first 18 months. Now, we are going through the process of who is the right person to have it and who is the right person for the brand. You have to qualify to spend $300,000. Isn't that crazy?
So if I, for instance, what they're looking for is the same buyers for Rolls-Royce and Bentley.
Yeah.
So that would be the well-heeled country club set.
They're kind of seeing this car, which has 600 horsepower and 640 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 3.8, 300 miles of electric range. It's all electric. They're kind of seeing this as a billboard for the brand, and I wonder how deeply they go into it. Like, so let's take a look at your wardrobe. What will you be wearing when you go there? And when you go out to eat, do you go to restaurants where they might park it, high-end restaurants where they might park it in front of the restaurant?
Well, I think they would. I think the owner would probably expect that.
Yeah. So,
and of course, some of the owners will live in Las Vegas, and they'll just drive up and down the strip.
will they put the big steer horns on the front, like the old
The
Cadillac?
big deer horns, yes, or stirrups on the door handles.
It's kind of interesting because, you know, we saw this with the Ford GT, and we're going to talk about a special version of the Ford GT
Right.
this hour too. Remember, you had to go The only thing I could say it was like either a job interview panel or
It
there's
was
a co-op
applying.
boards in New York where you have
Yeah,
to
you,
qualify to live
right.
in the
You were
building.
applying to own it.
Yeah. You couldn't sell it, right?
Right.
For a year or so. They didn't want flippers. Um, so I don't know. I mean, what is the legality? Isn't it if you can pay the freight, you're step up,
I
right?
Yeah.
And
I I, I think so. It's funny that that these companies can do that. I mean, it's of course it's just part of an advertising gimmick that only the right people can own this.
yeah. But how do you
Uh,
select the right people? Which is
uh, I think their selection system, and I'm just speculating. I don't know, but it just seems to me that their system is, we don't care who applies for this as long as they look like they're not a serial killer. We're going to sell it to them.
and do you have cash?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Does Rolls Royce say if you walked in paint covered clothes, with a pencil on your ear, and would they care if you said, "Hey, I want to buy that silver ghost, and oh, by the way, here's my bag of tools, and I happen to have some cash in here"? Would they care?
I would think Rolls-Royce and Bentley would probably look you over and they'd say, well, we need to check your credit rating. Of course, they're going to check their Dun and Bradstreet rating. And then if they're a little bit turned off by you, I think they'll say, well, we can put your order in, but there's going to be quite a wait.
Mm,
And
sounds
they
dicey
just
to
try to
me from
wait
a
you
legal
out.
standpoint.
Yeah.
It sounds because I think if you're selling something, if it's for sale, it's for sale. Like if you got the money,
If you're selling, you can't discriminate.
step up. Step up. You got the
But
cash to buy it. It's yours.
yeah,
If you wanna be like a bonehead internet guy and buy a Celestique and drive it off a cliff, hey,
that's right.
it's
Except
stupid.
for one of them who's going to prison pretty very soon.
Very, very soon. So
And he you can't pay. By the way, you can't pay in Bitcoin.
oh, that's right. Yes, it has to be real legal tender. That's
Real money.
yeah. But hey, there you go. A lot of people wanting a $300,000 Cadillac Celestique. It's a
Man.
beautiful car. We'll see as it comes out who is buying these things. But when we come back, something that affects us all is the end of the chip shortage. Gonna happen real soon, but maybe because there's a recession. Who knows? We'll come back and discuss it on Cruise Control.
Cruise Control.
And welcome to Cruise Control. Welcome back to Cruise Control. Fred Staab and Les Jackson. Les, Les didn't get. He's been up looking at automotive
No,
stories. He didn't get a chance.
I have, yes, you caught me yawning, not because of you,
Okay.
but
He's just been thinking about cars, and that's it. But
well,
maybe you've been thinking about the chip shortage. You and I, when we review cars, we look into the Monroney, the window sticker, and many of the vehicles we have had, they'd say, oh, $20 credit, no heated steering wheel,
yeah,
$75 credit, no heated seats, no head-up display, no power seats. Some of them
that was
say will be
the
added later.
BMW I had early in the year, no power seats, $900 credit.
Yeah. Some of them give you credit. Some of them give you a small credit and say it will be put back in later. But it's all due to the chip shortage, worldwide chip shortage. We've been talking about this now almost for 2 years, I think. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, remember it was speculated that it was going to take a little over 2 years.
to clear out. And basically, I guess it started during the COVID situation.
Yep.
So, according to a UK-based startup, VNC Automotive, the crisis will be over soon. But that's the good part. The bad part is the reason it will be over soon is there is a worldwide recession on the way, and that means less people will buy things, less demand, more available chips.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen.
No, I hope it's not good for anyone. I mean, but do you think we have fixed the situation by building more plants here and not having one like just saying, oh, Taiwan supplies everything and
no, we are rapidly building plants all over the country. The upstate New York, the AMD plant is doubling its size.
Right.
Texas, same thing. California, but they started like a year and a half ago building these. It takes a couple years for these plants to get up and running. These are class 100 clean rooms.
Right. Right. So
yeah.
I hope the chip shortage is over. You and I had talked about this. Will these vehicles ever be retrofit with these missing chips?
I
don't think there's any plan for it. I haven't heard any.
Only in rare instances. Otherwise, I think you're just screwed.
Well, as I think I said last week, a lot of these chips are buried under the dash. I know I have a car where the mix valve, the little gear on the mix valve for the HVAC is bad. You literally have to take the dashboard out to get to that.
Right.
It's built around that, right? And there's tricks and ways to get around it. But if some of these things are deep behind the dashboard, think of the labor that will have to be paid by the manufacturer, I would imagine, to put like a chip in, basically that's mounted deep up on the firewall before you put the dashboard together. And there's no manual on how to do this because nobody's had to do it before.
Unless they come up, and I think it's possible in some cases. It's possible in some cases with certain accessories that you could come up with an electronic circuit that would plug from the fuse panel to the device.
Oh, I see.
In line, that would do what was supposed to happen in the device. I think that's for sound systems. I'm sure they can do that.
Interesting.
Maybe
a piggyback type of chip or something.
But you're not going to be able, unless the heaters are in the seats and in the steering wheel, you're not going to be able to run those.
No. Well, look at the one van I had. I had a Pacifica hybrid minivan. It had non-powered mirrors. Now you say, okay, well that's pretty easy to get it to. Not really. You have to pull the whole door apart, probably the panels off the inside, maybe the glass out. Put the motorized mirror in. Maybe the motorized mirror's in. I don't know. It's fairly involved. It's not a cheap thing to do labor-wise.
Now, you and I wouldn't hesitate to pull the doors apart.
I did that on
We've
plenty
done
of cars.
it many times.
Yeah, I added electric windows and power locks to vehicles that didn't have
But I want compensation for that.
Right.
I don't want a $20 thank you.
Or a bunch of buttons that don't work. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I was in one press car. It had all the buttons, all the switch gear, but they just didn't light up.
Those are, by the way, those are called hot point switches.
Hot point switches.
It stems from the late 50s when the manufacturers were putting hot point washing machines. They put a whole bunch of buttons on them for different cycles. But when the very early consumer people checked, The buttons weren't connected to anything. It was
Because
just,
that was for the more expensive
it
model.
was just, to sell people gimmicks.
Oh, button and knob effect.
Yeah, and they became known as hot point switches.
That's funny. Yeah, it's nothing like putting a switch in. Well, and not
Yeah,
and not
it was.
having
It's called fraud, by the way. In, in that
Here, this
case,
switch is
here
inoperative.
this is.
Yeah. Well, you and I, another topic we talk about a lot is the manual transmission. You and I are two of the few people that know how to
We're the last living humans who
that could operate a manual
tried.
transmission vehicle. No,
Yeah,
I don't think it's that bad,
no,
but certainly amongst our journalist friends, there are many that don't know how to drive a
and
manual
don't want to.
and don't want to. So they never will learn if they don't want to learn. But we have thought that, well, electric vehicles, most of them have a one-speed transmission, the more simple ones do, that there'll never be a manual transmission in an electric vehicle, although some people have taken classic cars and connected them. So it is possible. Well, Lexus has announced that it plans on having manual transmissions for future electric cars. Many of the technologies will be used in the future as far as a manual transmission. I guess you would have a clutch. I don't know. What do you think?
I suspect it's electrically uh, operated. It's probably an electromechanical clutch, so that all you do is just play with the shifter, which is just going to balance the drive characteristics. It's not really, I don't think it's really a transmission.
Is this more akin to like let's make sounds? It sounds like a gas engine.
I think so.
Yeah. I could see like flappy paddle, shifting. That could maybe change something, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I think it might be weird, but as I said,
Wait a second. I'm just reading ahead of ourselves. That it has a gear lever and clutch pedal.
no, okay,
Wow.
all right.
Software based.
So
So
basically, it's a simulator. Like you can get
it's a simulator.
you
Yeah,
can
the
get
clutch.
that clutch pedal and gear shift,
Yeah.
which I always said was a great way to teach people how to drive a manual.
Yeah, I think so.
You have a gated shifter, you have a clutch pedal. So anyway, that's one of my goals, by the way, to build one of those simulators. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, it's interesting that Lexus, of all brands, is the one doing this.
Yeah.
You don't think of stick shift in Lexuses.
No, you don't. Not at least here. Not at least here. But there they are. Yeah, and as I said, some people have taken classic cars and actually just swapped in an electric motor
Yep.
with a bell housing on it and a clutch. So it can be done. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about morphing car bodies. We're going to talk about testing heavy EVs, crash testing them, and we're going to have a review of the Kona Electric from Hyundai. Stay tuned. And welcome to Cruise Control. Welcome back to Cruise Control. We've been having a lively conversation about all things automotive.
Yep.
And big news over at Ford, Les. They have built their 150,000th Mach-E.
Wow.
This has been a big vehicle for the folks at Ford, and I think it will only continue. It is a great vehicle. it has a great name. There's a lot of consternation when people said, "Oh, it's not really a Mustang. You're putting Mustang name on it." I think people have largely
That's
gotten
right.
over that. I told you I met people that had never considered buying a Ford, and they bought the Ford.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's a big hit. And
It's a heck of a machine. I'll give Ford credit
yeah,
for. By the way, let me get your opinion. I think like you, I think the Mach-E is really cool. I don't see that on the screen there. I don't see that blue as a performance Mustang color.
although that's grabber blue, isn't it?
I like that blue.
Yeah. The one
I
I
really
tested
like it.
was a first edition, actually, with that blue in it.
Hmm.
And I like it. I painted a car that color. It was called Big Bad Blue, which was actually an AMC color, but was very
Hmm.
close to that. Um, it was one of those faded yellows. When I got it, I hated
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah.
And changed the color up, and it was fun. Um, but that's big news for them, and we should also talk about the regular Mustang. We have a new version coming out. This is an interesting story where since they didn't put the horsepower out right away and they released one of these to, I believe, journalists, they had the old horsepower rating for the 5 liter, and people were very disappointed and they got some negative press. But now the horsepower numbers are out. Of course, they have the Dark Horse model, which has 500 horsepower. And then they have the 2.3-liter EcoBoost engine, 315 horsepower. By the way, that is a
That's
fun engine.
It's a great engine and it's incredible power.
Yeah. And I drove one of those, the last generation, and the nose felt a lot lighter, and it was a lot of fun. Um, but 480 horsepower for the standard Mustang, which is up with the GT Mustang, I should say, which is up significantly. I believe it was 450 in the old one, so a 30
Yeah,
horsepower
it's
boost
450.
is pretty darn good, don't you think?
It is. It's kind of ironic that it's coming out here in the middle of winter
Yeah, that's true. It's
when
not the best winter
when a
car.
Mustang with performance tires is probably not the best choice for
Probably not going to
snowy
have that in the
roads.
fleet at this point to
Well,
test.
they did 4 years ago, because I had one in the middle of an ice storm
Not the
here,
best.
and I had to get home from downtown DC. I made it, but the roads were completely jammed with spun out stalled SUVs.
Right, right. I have an SUV, they say, so I'll just drive through the snowdrift.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, there's a concrete barrier in that snowdrift.
that's right.
Whoops. Uh, but, I always said about the Mustang, as much as I like the turbo EcoBoost 4-cylinder with 315 horsepower, it felt great to drive. If I was going to spend for a Mustang, I'd probably get the V8.
Well, I think part of that, and I agree, part of that is, we grew up with Mustangs
Hmm.
and we grew up with V8s, and it
Right.
just doesn't feel like a Mustang
Right.
unless it's got a big honking V8 in it.
Yeah, like when I reviewed that car, I said this is a great vehicle, but it just seems like somebody put, when they would put the wrong engine sound, dub it in on a movie or
Yeah,
something, and it's
see,
like that car doesn't sound like that.
we are victims of an image.
But if you just wanted a fun car to toss
It's
around,
great.
it's a great the nose feels tons lighter. You can almost feel it. And I didn't want to drive it. They were like, "Where'd Fred go?" Oh, he went off driving on the twisties in that car.
That's
It was a blast. I said, "This is fun." But anyway, 315 horsepower for the Turbo 4, 480 for the Mustang GT 5-liter. And then if you want to step up to the Dark Horse, it's 500 horsepower. And knowing how Ford works, and when it comes to Mustangs, there'll probably be a lot more horsepower and a bunch
Yep.
of special editions. So stay tuned. They keep it fresh, don't they?
Heck of a legacy there.
Yeah. No legacy here, but what about Talking Tech? I guess our tech of Talking Tech. That's a legacy. But morphable body panels. They're going to be displayed by Magna, who builds cars. They're kind of like a small volume builder. They actually
Right.
built, I believe they built the first X3 for BMW. BMW hired them to build it, and they build it. They call it Future Ready Solutions, and they are showcasing at the CES show, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, the Mezzo Plus front panel. This is a flexible material that will improve aerodynamic efficiency. Now, of course, we're used to, you and I, active aero, where there's shutters behind
Right.
a grill, or there's a wing that changes its attack angle. But what about if the front of the vehicle could change to increase or reduce the coefficient of drag, let's say? So you and I have said all these vehicles are starting to look alike. What if it looked one way when it was stopped at a light, but when you're on the road, it changes shape and gets more aerodynamic?
Yeah. But how far can it change?
I think we'll have
And
to
I
check
don't
out
know.
CES to know, because it is interesting. I think it is quite. I think back to the early days of Endura bumpers when they were all
Oh, yes.
bumpy and not so good looking, and I think this is probably the future where there is shape changing. Another thing to think about, pedestrian safety. They have to be kind of, shaped a certain way for pedestrian safety,
Yeah.
but that's not the
Yeah.
best for aerodynamics. So when you get rolling, maybe it changes. I don't know.
I'd like to see this.
Yeah, me too. I have to understand it more to learn about it. But CES coming up, no longer just the show of great televisions
It's
and electronics. It's a car show, isn't it?
it's very much a car show. So much so that they need to rename it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, car electronic show. How's that?
Yeah, or CES Auto.
CES Auto. All right. Well, morphing bodies. Les, you and I talk about the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety a lot. And these are the people that buy new cars and they smash them and they give you those ratings, right? The plus ratings.
That's right.
They rate headlights. They rate crash capability. They are based not too far from where you are. And they do a great service for the industry, because for the insurance industry, it tells you how well the vehicle will do in a crash. It gives you great information if you're buying a vehicle, how well it will do in a crash. So lately, they know that some big vehicles are coming in to be tested, like the Hummer EV SUV. It's almost 10,000 pounds. And so far, the heaviest vehicle they tested was the Audi e-tron SUV that was just under 6,000 pounds. So they had to test their system that pulls a car at 40 miles an hour along a 600-foot runway to see if it could do that, if it had enough power to do that. And apparently it does. They bought some old F-150 junk vehicles and an old Chevy Tahoe and loaded it up with steel plates and concrete blocks to see if it could handle that weight. Interesting, huh?
Yeah. Plus the fixed barrier at the end. They have to make sure
It doesn't go through the side of the building.
I've been there down to the test facility down near Charlottesville, Virginia. It's state of the art.
Yeah. And this is great information they give. I mean, they it's smart to me. You want to make vehicles safer? Well, make it like a rating that they can sell more vehicles if they get the better rating, and it's good for everyone. So
It is.
Good stuff. All right, heavy-duty testing coming up at the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. I'm Fred Staab. He's Les Jackson. We will be right back on Cruise Control.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. At the wheel time once again, Les. Interesting vehicle. This is the Kona, Hyundai Kona Electric. Kona is a great little vehicle, a little crossover. I have to say the electric version though wakes it up. You can have the Kona N, which has 270 something horsepower, or you can get the Kona Electric, which has 201 horsepower, more than the two gas-powered versions of this, two different drivetrains in the Kona lineup. And I think this really wakes this car up, the electric drivetrain. It is, I would say, very fun to drive. It has 258-mile range. Which I found to be not bad for a small vehicle like this. It has the storage in the back. It is a crossover. It is very close to looking like the regular Kona, except it has an electric motor up front and a 64-kilowatt lithium-ion battery. 291 pound-feet of torque, and that's gone to the front wheels. It looks like an engine under there. It looks like a engine cover, and it's traditional. There's no frunk. It is, looks like an engine. If I didn't know any better, if it didn't say EV, I'd say, yeah, that's some kind of four-cylinder engine in there. Very interesting color, cactus fern. It was a metallic color, and I kind of liked it. It was really different look. Up front, you can tell it's an electric. There's no grill, and interestingly, the charge port is on the front of the vehicle. Good and bad. Great because I find my configuration, I like something on the front. It's easier to plug in. Bad, if you hit something, you're going to take out your charge port, and you're not going to be able to go anywhere if you ruin that, and when the battery runs out. As I say, there's a little bit of detail that is a little bit different. For the Kona Electric, there's some vortex generators on the side there, on the trim, the little bit different wheels, a little bit different color palette, and of course on the front end, that's a giveaway that there is no front grille. I found this vehicle was easy to love. As I say, 58-mile range, but it seemed to charge very quickly for some reason, just on 110 volts. And you can really charge it quickly, 0 to 10 to 80% in approximately 47 minutes if you use a rapid recharging recharger. I did not do that. With a level 2 charging, it will charge from 10 to 100% in approximately 9 hours and 15 minutes. I just used the regular 110-volt charge, and I have to say it's one of the fastest charging electric vehicles that I have experienced. Got that wireless phone charger. It's got a very simple shifter. It's a bunch of buttons, 4 buttons, easy to use. Sometimes these shifters can be confusing. I thought this one was pretty easy to use. And yes, you can get my favorite mode of driving an electric car, the one-pedal mode, which is handy. Being a Hyundai, has everything in it. Heated seats, heated steering wheel, all kinds of fun stuff to play with in there. This was the premium model, which is the top of the range. It had different drive modes. It had a 10.25-inch display. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, easy to use, great menus, standard type Hyundai on that type of infotainment system. So really, really nice. Interior overall, I found it to be a bit plain. I wasn't turned off by that. Very utilitarian. It does what it has to do. The controls are easy to use. You get more storage in the back, fold down rear seats. Not a lot of luxury in the rear. You get a couple of USB ports out back. You get some pretty decent storage. That's the case for the charger, which is kind of nice. They give you a nice case to hold the charger. Underneath, it's just storage, no spare tire, just an inflator to keep the weight down. And then under the hood, that's the electric motor that gets that cover over. It looks like a little 4-cylinder. What else can I tell you about it? Well, as I said, 201 horsepower, Harman Kardon premium audio, smart cruise control with stop and go, lever trimmed seats, the cool cactus fern paint. It has Hyundai Smart Sense, available active features including forward collision avoidance, blind spot collision avoidance, rear cross traffic collision avoidance. You're avoiding a lot of things with this vehicle. Rear occupant alert, smart cruise control, highway drive assist, lane following, and safe exit warning. That's if you're getting out of the vehicle and a car is coming up or even a bicycle is coming up, it will tell you don't get out because somebody is on their way. I think this vehicle, which, by the way, is only available in certain states, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Vermont at this time, is one of the easiest ways to get into the EV world. I would compare it to the vehicle I'm driving now, which is the Chevy Bolt, the EUV version of that, which we'll have a full review on coming up in Cruise Control in a couple of weeks. Where it differs from the Bolt, though, is the price. $41,550 with freight of $1,295. Total MSRP $42,845. I checked some of the dealers. There was a small upcharge on it too. I would say about $1,000 over sticker. I'm not sure why, but that seems a lot higher than the Bolt to me. Bolt has a little bit less range. I'm going to say that's in the 230s. I just charged the Bolt up outside overnight, so I think it's fully charged. I'll let you know, but a little bit less range. But still, it's not at that $41,000 price.
No, that's getting up there.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that. It's the only negative of the vehicle. It's fun to drive. It's got a lot of snap to it. It will light those tires off. I had to keep it out of the sport mode because literally every time I left the light, it would chirp the tires, and so I was driving in comfort mode, which was more than enough power. As you know, electric cars are great when they take off from the light. This was more than enough power. Did not need any more than what it provided. I liked all of the creature comforts that they put in there. That is standard Hyundai. Some might find that the interior's a little plain. It's not a negative. It's just a little plain. It's got blue lights on all the controls and that. It's functional and a lot of black. It has a lot of black plastic on the inside. But other than the price, I think they may have missed the mark a little bit on the price here. I don't know. They're not in the business to just build these things for the heck of it and make a compliance car. Hopefully we've gone beyond that. It has good range. We'll compare it certainly to the Bolt pricing, but Bolt is easily, with benefits and with the incentives, it's easily under $30,000, even without it.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It's easily maybe 10 grand less than this without the incentives. I don't know, but that's the only problem with it. Otherwise, it was a fun car. I would like one to run around town in, or you can take longer trips at 258.
Yep. And
Fun
And
to drive.
electrics have instant heaters coming on
Oh, I love that.
in the
lately.
winter.
Yeah. Defrosting windows with this bolt.
Love it.
They come right on, instant heat and instant defrost on the windshield. It's great. So there you have it, the Hyundai Kona Electric. We try to do at the wheels as much as we can, keep you up to date. Time for me to say I'm Fred Staab.
I'm Les Jackson.
We're going to see you down the road.